There's no such thing as essential carbohydrates. Look at any medical textbook. You see essential amino acids, so essential proteins, essential fats, but there's no such thing as essential carbohydrates. So the body's really smart. The innate intelligence could make its own glucose when it needs to.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching our videos. If you'd like to support us some more, you can explore our homemade natural skincare products at purelytallow.com. Thank you so much for supporting my small business.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Carnivore Revolution. I'm Serena, and today my special guest is Ben Azadi from Keto Kamp with a K, and I'm super excited to talk to Ben today. Ben just got a new book deal, so we'll talk about that. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Hey Serena, good to be with you and your audience today.
So I like to start with people's stories so people understand where you're coming from, what led you down this road of keto, low carb, carnivore, how you got here, and what it's done for you.
Yeah, like so many, not just those in the United States, but so many around the world, I was very metabolically unhealthy. As a kid, I followed a standard American diet. My mom worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken, so she would bring me home fried food, doing the best she can.
That's right.
And I ate the food, and I was super happy that my mom worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken. I thought that was the coolest thing, right? But as a kid, I was very unhealthy. I was overweight. I was depressed. I had bad behaviors, addictions to drugs and video games and sugar and food. And I was really unhealthy, low self-confidence as well. And when I was 24 years old, back in 2008, I had a wake-up call where I was rock bottom, ready to give up on life. And thankfully, I didn't go that route. I started to actually get into books, authors like Dr. Wayne Dyer and Tony Robbins and Bob Proctor and all these amazing authors. Books really changed my mindset and my paradigm around my health, and not just my health, but my results in life. And I started to take ownership and responsibility. And I really believe responsibility is the first step to great change, toward great change. And the word responsibility to me means our ability to respond to life. And when my ability to respond to life was poor, because I was blaming other people, blaming my slow metabolism, blaming my genetics, then my results were poor. But when I started to take ownership and my ability to respond was better and improved, then my results improved and got better. So 9 months after I took ownership and responsibility, well, at that point, I started to move my body and eat real food. And then 9 months later, I went through this incredible health transformation where I lost 80 pounds in about 9 months. I went from being obese at 34% body fat to getting as low as 6% body fat. And yeah, it's amazing and cool to, achieve a physical six pack, especially when it's something you always dreamed of, or at least I did when I was a kid. But more importantly than that is a mental six pack and what it did for my mental health. And that's what got me into the health space. Now, I didn't do it with keto or carnivore or even fasting. I didn't even know what those were back in 2008. So I was fit because I went through this transformation, but I was not necessarily healthy. I was still dealing with digestive issues and brain fog and hormone issues. So I was still exploring different diets and different approaches. So I did a paleo diet. I did a vegan diet for a year and a half. And eventually that led me to a keto diet and intermittent fasting. And this is in 2013, going into 2014. And I started to apply keto and fasting, and it really upgraded my health, where I actually started to feel healthy, not just look healthy. And that's where I got really curious about keto and fasting. And then I started applying it to I used to own a CrossFit gym at that time. I applied it to my members at the CrossFit gym and then my personal training clients. And I started to see them get results. And it really sparked a huge interest for me. So ever since then, I've been, teaching keto, teaching fasting. It wasn't until 2018, 2019 that I started to get interested in carnivore. And I started to experiment with that. And of course, I fell in love with the benefits that come with carnivore. And I created my company, Keto Kamp. As you mentioned, I love that you said camp with the K. That is true. It is camp with the K. And the mission is to put a dent in disease, to educate 1 billion people on planet Earth. And within that lifetime mission, there's a 10-year goal that we just recently committed to, which is to reverse type 2 diabetes in 1 million people. And that is something that we are really passionate about, because metabolic dysfunction and diabetes, prediabetes, these conditions are everywhere, but they're lifestyle conditions that are treated with medication. And there's a big mismatch there, because the medications are treating the symptoms when the symptoms are not the problem. There's a cause. And unfortunately, conventional medicine is not getting to the cause. So my goal is to teach people what the cause or causes are, and remove that interference, and then the body goes and heals itself.
Yeah, I think what you said about you weren't really trying to be healthy. It was about weight loss in the beginning. And I think for so many people, when they start a new way of life or a new diet plan, it is about the weight. And I just wonder, how do you think we can change that narrative for people? Like the weight really, unless you're at an extremely unhealthy weight, the health should come first, which your weight will follow, right? But instead, we always do it the other way around.
Yeah, you're right. And the way the body works is exactly what you said. We get healthy to lose weight. We don't lose
Mhm.
weight to get healthy. Now, is focusing on weight loss bad? I mean, I'm not going to say that it's bad. Look, it got me
Mhm.
kickstarted, right? And if that's what's going to get you kickstarted, like that's fantastic. I applaud you. But how are we going to rewrite that or change that paradigm? And I
Mhm.
think the reason why we have that paradigm and it's so strong that we need to lose weight and focus on weight loss is because of the whole calories in versus calories out thing. And we've been brainwashed, but that's focusing on the symptom because nobody has a weight problem. There's no such thing as a weight problem. When I was obese, I never had a weight problem. It is a weight symptom, right? So the
Mhm.
real problem is inflammation, hormones. And once you start tackling that, then the weight loss occurs as a side effect. And the best thing about that, it stays off. Like you're not going to go through these cyclical lose weight, gain weight, lose weight, gain weight. When you only focus on weight loss, that's typically going to be the case. But when you focus on health, the weight stays off for good.
Mhm.
So we just have to understand the body knows what it's doing.
Mhm.
We need to look at those symptoms as a gift, not a
Mhm.
curse. It's the body's way of communicating to us. And we're not looking to mask or treat the symptoms. We're looking to determine what has turned on the check engine light
Mhm.
and determine that cause, remove the cause, then the body heals itself.
I love looking at it like the check engine light because we know, both of us know, and there's people all over the world, but we know people, like I know people in my personal life who are sick all the time. Like there's always something wrong with these people. And that's a great way to look at it. Like that's your check engine light. But instead, they just go to the doctor and they get a medication instead of, changing the oil themselves, figuring out what the problem is. So I want for a minute to talk about the science behind ketosis. I think most people don't know that a baby is in ketosis in the womb. A baby is born in ketosis. And when a baby is nursing, the baby stays in ketosis. But we break that many times as infants or, young babies with a formula that is made with corn syrup solids or high fructose corn syrup. We break that, or we break it by their first food being bananas or oatmeal or rice cereal. Like it's almost like there's a conspiracy. But I just wonder, like, if people knew that, would it change how they feel? Obviously, ketosis is the preferred state of our body. If a baby is in ketosis in the womb as it's growing, and then for its first year, if you're nursing, or until you break it by giving them sugar, they stay in ketosis when they are doing the most learning they will ever do in their entire lives in such a short amount of time. So let's talk about the science of ketosis and how that works in the brain and in the body to get us to a place of health and kind of reset us.
Yeah, you said it well. We're designed to be fat burners. It's our primal
Mhm.
birthright. What separates keto from other diets, we'll call it, let's say a paleo diet or a vegan diet or whatever diet people do. Keto is technically not even a diet, it's a metabolic process.
Oh,
So it's not going away. There's nothing new about keto. It's just
mhm,
nuanced or new to some people. Ketosis is a metabolic state that we're all designed to use. Our cells are designed to use. So much so important that, to your point, Serena, when babies are born into this world, they're natural fat burning babies that are in ketosis. It really helps that neurological development of the baby's brain, which is prime time at that time to develop that
mhm,
baby's brain. But then we have the babies that get weaned off the breast milk and they're put on a sugary formula, or they start growing up and they start eating high carbs, snacking every 2 to 3 hours. And we teach this natural fat burning human to start burning sugar. And then they're now in a keto deficiency. That's what I call them. We have individuals who are metabolically unhealthy. They're essentially in a keto deficiency. They forgot how to burn fat. So we
mhm,
got to remind them, hey, you're designed to burn fat. And what unlocks the key to fat burning is the hormone insulin. Mainly, it's an energy sensing hormone, energy sensor. So when you lower insulin, you start to unlock that door to burning fat. And when you burn fat, the fatty acids are sent to your liver. Your liver uses that for energy. and it produces ketones. And that could happen in a matter of days, and some people in a few weeks, but it could happen pretty quickly. And now you're in this ketosis state. And the benefits of being in ketosis, and by the way, I think a lot of people don't understand that carnivore is keto because you're doing zero carbs essentially. So you are in ketosis when you're doing carnivore. It is still we could call it a keto diet. You're just doing more of an animal-based approach, but it is keto.
Mhm.
When you're in ketosis, ketones do a lot of amazing things. Number one, these ketones are signaling molecules. They communicate and speak with your mitochondria. They signal to your mitochondria that times are tough, meaning we are going through winter or we are going through a famine. There's not an abundance of carbohydrates. And our ancestors all went through that. We're hardwired this way.
Yeah.
And when that signal is sent that there's not an abundance of carbs, not because, I mean, in reality, there is an abundance of carbs, but the innate intelligence doesn't know that we could, go to the refrigerator. It automatically goes to the switch that times are tough. Those ketones are now produced, and those ketones communicate to the mitochondria to reproduce. And it helps the mitochondria. And the mitochondria are these energy plants, power plants that help you produce energy. They're also really important for anti-aging and fat loss and so many amazing things. The mitochondria go through mitochondrial biogenesis, which is the creation of new mitochondria. So you have a situation where your mitochondria are producing more energy. When you produce more energy, obviously you have more energy, especially the brain, which has the highest concentration of mitochondria. You get mental clarity, but it also raises your basal metabolic rate because you're producing more energy. So by default, you're burning more calories just sitting on the couch without having to track every single calorie going into your mouth. And then combine that with lowering insulin levels, those are two powerful ways to burn extra body fat. So ketones are amazing. They upregulate glutathione in the cell, which is a master antioxidant. We see research showing that how prevalent it is and potent it is for reversing type 2 diabetes and PCOS and prediabetes and all these metabolic syndrome conditions, high blood pressure. It really is incredible. We're designed to use it. We're designed to be in a fat burning state. We have just forgotten about it through society. And most people are now in a keto deficiency.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And I want to take this moment to say, when we are talking about keto or keto diet, we are talking about a natural whole foods approach with a high fat content, high protein content. We're not talking about the bars you buy at the grocery store or the pancakes that say keto approved. Like, there is no governing body over keto. There's not like somebody out there saying, oh yeah, you can have that if you're on keto. Like, it is what it is. And the processed foods have no place in a ketogenic diet. And the father of that was Dr. Atkins. So I just want to set the record straight real quick about Dr. Atkins. He did not die of a heart attack. He slipped and hit his head on some ice. That's the one thing people always want to say to me. Why would I do that diet? Dr. Atkins died of a heart attack. He did not die of a heart attack. So
It's information.
we should just set the record straight there on poor Dr. Atkins, who everybody just thinks that that's how he died. So now let's talk about glucose, because people will say, but you need glucose. We need sugar. We need carbohydrates.
Yeah, we do need glucose. That is correct. The body always needs glucose. However, we don't need to eat the carbs to get the glucose. We don't need to eat the sugar, the carbs. We can manufacture it. That's why, there's no such thing as essential carbohydrates. Look at any medical textbook. You see essential amino acids, so essential proteins, essential fats, but there's no such thing as essential carbohydrates. So the body is really smart. The innate intelligence could make its own glucose when it needs to, through protein could be converted to glucose via gluconeogenesis. Fat could be converted to glucose when needed. Heck, cortisol could create glucose as well. So the adrenal glands could create it as well. So yes, it is true when you hear people say, don't we need glucose at all times? Because that is a fact. We do, but we don't have to eat the glucose. We could just create the process for the body to create that glucose on its own.
So now I know that you're a big proponent of fasting, right? And I fasted a lot in the beginning of my carnivore journey. I fasted actually way too much and didn't eat enough at my eating times. And it actually caused me to gain weight. I would stay still for a long time. And then I would have like 1 or 2 days where I ate more, and not like to the tune of 3,500 calories or to the tune of, 1 or 2 pounds, but then I would gain a pound or two and then I couldn't lose it. And that would stay there. A couple of weeks would go by, I'd gain another half a pound. A couple of weeks, I'd gain another pound. And I continued to fast and I continued to undereat. And there are people out there who say, you cannot gain weight by undereating. You cannot stay exactly the same if you're in a constant deficit, that you will lose weight. It's guaranteed. What do you say to that?
Well, A lot of people do that, what you did. Me too. We over fast because we tend to feel really good in a fasted state. I know I do, and you start to get results, but too much of a good thing turns into a bad thing. So fasting is a stress, no argument. Fasting is a stress to the body. But is that necessarily bad? When I see people post on social media, especially talking about women fasting, women should not fast, it wrecks their hormones. I think that's like them saying women should not exercise, it's too stressful for them. I mean, it's so crazy to hear that because it's the same sort of language. Just because it's a stress doesn't mean it's bad. If your body adapts to that stress, you get stronger and healthier, your hormones get more optimized. But if it's too much and you don't adapt to it, then it is a problem. I mean, the same thing happened to you, that happened to me, and it happens to a lot of people. We tend to overly fast and overdo these stressors. So if you exercise too much, you turn a good thing into a bad thing. If you fast too much, you turn a good thing into a bad thing. Fasting is not necessarily about eating less, it's about eating less often. So a couple of things here with the calorie conversation. A lot of people in the fitness industry will say fasting only works because you're in a calorie deficit. But I've taken people who are, let's say they're eating, we'll use the 3,500 calories because it's very easy as you use. It's 1 pound of fat, people say, right? So we'll use the 3,500 calorie as an example. Let's say somebody wants to lose weight and they're eating 3,500 calories each day. They're tracking it every day, 3,500, 3,500. But we don't cut their calories. We just they're eating all day long, I should preface. They're eating from 8 a.m. to, let's say, 8 p.m.
Okay.
So we don't change how many calories they're having, but we condense their eating window from 8 a.m. to, let's say, 2 p.m., still 3,500 calories. They'll lose weight, even though they didn't cut their calories. You ask why? Because you're giving a period of time to probably enter ketosis and also lower insulin. So it's hormones that are the mechanism at play here, not necessarily the deficit in calories. But if you do overly fast, your metabolism will slow down. That is true. And then you eat a day where you feast like you did. And now the metabolism is not as, I like to use the word efficient more than fast. The metabolism is not as efficient now. So you put the weight back on, right? Because your metabolism has dropped and it became more inefficient from excessive fasting. So there needs to be a balance, especially women who have a menstrual cycle, but for both men and women and postmenopausal women, feasting, I'm getting into the habit now of teaching people more about feasting than I am fasting because they're overly doing the fasting. So both are very important, especially right off the bat.
Yeah. And for me, I was a chronic undereater. I bought my first diet pills when I was 12. I'm 50.
Wow.
So for 35 years before I became a carnivore, I was on a diet every single day. Even when I was pregnant, I was really careful. We have 4 kids. I gained 80 pounds with my first child because I just ate whatever I wanted, but then by the time I decided to kind of cut back and realized I was gaining too much weight too fast, it was too late. So then I was on a diet for the rest of the pregnancy, but I'm a chronic undereater. Weight Watchers, I went through the same thing. Like I would eat exactly the amount of points they told me to eat. I didn't cheat the amount of points, calories, and I would stay exactly the same for 3 months. And then I would match it with calories and realize I'm only eating 900 calories. And I would move it up to 13 or 1400 calories. And I would immediately drop a pound. It was like my body is constantly holding on. And so when I had the days where I was just eating 2 hamburger patties, 900 calories, and then on Sunday, I might eat 2,000 calories, my body just held on to it. And it didn't matter what I did. I could fast for 36 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, and weigh exactly the same when the fast ended as it did when I started. And there are people who say that's not true. Somebody actually made a parody video of me last week, really hurt my feelings, of me talking recently about how I've gained 12 pounds back. And I don't know how that happened. And I think it was because I was under eating. And then they switched it to a clip of me from last year eating tallow and saying, that's how I gained weight. But I was actually eating the tallow when I lost weight. I was actually eating the tallow at my lowest weight as a snack, so that kind of hurt my feelings. And I went back and forth with him in emails, after that, asking him to take it down, which he did, and just explained that I wasn't doing it wrong. I wasn't cheating. I wasn't eating so much fat that I gained weight. I was not eating enough. And people just don't see how that's possible, but it's the lowering of your metabolism and then your body holding on when you do eat like my body was in a constant state of stress, probably for 35 years just because of my food. That's so dumb. Why did I it's so silly how we get into this cycle.
It happens more often than not. You're not alone for sure. An analogy that helps people understand what's happening here with your story and so many stories out there that are similar. It's like living, let's say somebody lives in Alaska. They live in a cabin in Alaska and it's the summer. And they know in a few months it's going to be fall and winter and it's going to be very, very cold. And there's no heating system in that cabin. They have firewood to burn the firewood and then create a warm cabin to make sure they survive the cold winter months. So they start storing firewood in the summer to get ready for the cold winter months. Winter rolls around, and let's say they only stored 15 logs of wood, but they have several months worth of cold temperatures. So they're going to burn that firewood as slowly as possible just to get enough heat, generate enough heat to get through those cold winter months. That's similar to what our metabolism is doing. It's going to burn that precious fuel supply, body fat, very slowly when it perceives scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
But when you incorporate a high calorie day or a feast day, I call it a keto flex day, that's like your buddy coming over and saying, "Oh, Serena, you only have 15 logs of wood? No worries. Here's a couple hundred. What are you going to do now? You're going to ramp up the burning. Now you're going to turn the dial back up on the heating, right? It's going to remind the body it's not starving, and it ramps up fat burning. So it sounds counterintuitive, but it reminds the innate intelligence that you're not in a famine. You're not in a survival state. There's a whole bunch of fuel. Let's burn that fuel. And that's what feasting does.
Yeah, I love that analogy with the firewood because nobody's ever explained it to me like that. And I have people all the time say, explain to me how I'm gaining weight by not eating enough. Explain to me why I'm not losing by not eating enough. And that analogy is a really great example to give people. So real quick, because we're about out of time, but you just signed a book deal. I'm super excited about that for you. You want to talk about the new book real quick?
Yeah. Thank you, Serena. And then just to close the loop on that last point, the number one priority for the body is survival. And if you have your precious fuel supply is limited, body fat is diminishing because you're under eating and over fasting, you're going to burn that very slow. When you feast, you have an abundance now of fuel to burn, and that's how it works. But so I just announced that I am a signed author with Hay House, and we're publishing a book together that will be out in June of 2025. So it's quite some time, but the book is all about metabolic health. It's called Metabolic Freedom. And, we see studies that show 88% to 93% of United States, people in the United States are metabolically unhealthy. That's a high percentage. And the first domino to fall is high insulin, high glucose levels. That's the first domino to fall, which of course leads to prediabetes, full-on diabetes, but nobody's really dying from the diabetes. They're dying to the diseases connected to it and all the cascade of horrible things that happen, the heart disease, the kidney failures, the amputations, the strokes, cancer. But the first domino is the high glucose and insulin level. So if we could tackle that right off the bat, we're going to trend things in the right direction. So the book's going to talk about what went wrong. It's going to debunk a lot of myths like cholesterol being bad for you and saturated fats being bad for you. It's going to get into the top causes to metabolic dysfunction. And then, of course, the solutions. And keto, you better believe there's an entire chapter on keto, an entire chapter on fasting. There's also an entire chapter on your thoughts and your mindset and how that influences health or disease. So the book is being written right now. The manuscript is due in August, and then we start promoting it. And then June 2025, it'll be out worldwide.
That's awesome. I don't suppose you'll mention Ansel Keys in there somewhere.
Yeah, we got to mention that guy because a lie told often enough becomes the truth, and we're dealing with his lies from the 1950s.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you guys don't know who Ansel Keys is, look it up and read The Big Fat Surprise by Nina Teicholz because it kind of lays into it. And your book, I'm sure, we'll go into that too. But until Ben's book comes out, read that book because that book changed my life. I've listened to it 5 times.
Yeah, wow. And that's a long book. I think it's like 15 hours or so. Yeah.
And every time I listen to it, I'm mad all over again. Like I'm like yelling at my phone, yelling at the book. I just can't because I listen to it, and I'm just like, I can't believe that everybody fell for it. And now we're sick because of it. Like he messed us up.
He did. Yeah. It's a great book. I do recommend that. The Big Fat Surprise, Nina Teicholz. Excellent book.
Do you tell people like right now, I gained this 12 pounds back. It's actually 17, but I'm willing to let the first 5 go because, I had gotten to exactly where I wanted to be. And I'm willing to let that first 5 go if I can get off the other 12. But I had started counting calories again. I know that I was under eating because the very first 2 days that I upped my calories, I lost a pound. And that's what my body does. Like it tells me, oh, okay, you're going to feed me now. I'll let it go, And so that felt great. But then I was doing like Bronson Dant told me to do 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight of both protein and fat. That put me at like 1,650 calories. But then it kind of quit working after that first couple of days. And so I raised my protein and lowered my fat a little bit because that's what Courtney's doing and it's working for Courtney. And like nothing, I'm just stuck. So I'm going to rotate higher fat days and lower fat days. Is that something that you would recommend? I mean, where like when I raise my fat, I'm doing 85-15 today. Do you think that's a good approach, like kind of rotating the higher fat days with the lower fat days?
Yeah, I like that it's constantly changing, and I think the more you change things up and tinker, you'll find the body needs to continuously adapt, right? So every fitness coach does that. Every great fitness coach does that with their workout routine. So yeah, I like that, and always, always remember the fundamentals, right? Your sleep is really important. Your stress levels are very important. So make sure you're getting some good deep sleep. You're working on your stress. But yeah, I like the approach of like higher fat, lower fat, higher fat, lower fat.
Okay.
I think it's a great approach. The goal is to mix things up and keep tinkering and see what your body likes and enjoys.
Yeah, and even the lower fat day, we're still talking 120 grams of fat. It's not like we're talking low fat,
Yeah, that's still pretty high. Maybe you have some days where it is a low fat day, like under 50 grams of fat.
Actually, really?
Yeah. Because here's the thing. I'm not saying every day you should do that, but the fat you eat, your body metabolizes that before the body fat. So we could get our fat calories or our calories in general from the food in front of us or from our butt, hips, and thighs. And what I've seen with my Keto Kamp Academy students is if I put them on a low fat day and a higher protein day, it just allows quicker access to their body fat, right? So you don't have to burn through 120 grams of fat. It's 50 grams or less, and then you're right into your body fat. So not every day that's good for you.
Just on occasion.
Correct. Yeah, you might want to tinker with that.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed this morning. My glucose was 112 and my ketones were 0.5. So I was like, okay, today's a high fat day. I got to fix this. I got to get back into ketosis and then I'll get that 12 pounds off. So, okay, Ben, thank you so much. I'll let you get to your next thing. I really appreciate you doing this with me and making the time today.
It's my pleasure. You are a great host and I love the work you're doing, Serena. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. And thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on the Carnivore Revolution.